reflecting upon the end of every man, which is death. In other words, because our mission, though we may be rewarded for eternity, our mission can only be accomplished in the time we have in this world. And there is so much to do. If we look at the Torah, there is so much to do. There's simply so much to do, and life is so short that it is a tremendous, tremendous challenge. And we're on page 36. And welcome, Natalie. We have not seen you for a long time, and you ready for us to wish you a good Yontiv. Halachic Man enjoyed the splendor of sunrise in the east and the swelling sea in the west. But this very experience, which contained in miniature the beauty of the cosmos as a whole and the joy of shared existence, precipitated in him despair and deep depression. In other words, you see the beauty of life, but you understand also how limited it is. The beauty and splendor of the world on one hand and the fate of man, who can enjoy this mysterious magnificence for only a brief fleeting moment on the other hand, touch the chords of his sensitive heart, which sensed the entire tragedy concealed within this phenomenon of human life. A great and resplendent world, and man few of days and full of trouble. There's an amazing world, and a world that needs to be synchronized with the will of God, with halacha, and only such little time to do it in. The fear of death is transformed here on page 37 into a quiet anguish, a silent pain, and a tender and delicate sadness that are adorned with the precious embellishment of a profound and lofty aesthetic experience. You see how beautiful the world is and its potential, but you know how short it is too. And there's so many mitzvot to do. There's so much to do. However, the individual undergoes such an exalted experience is not the type who longs for transcendence. Because a person could say, I want to leave this world. I want to live in the world of souls. Who needs the limits of the body, yearning to break out of the realm of the concrete? For why should one be disheartened and grieved on account of the beauty of this world, which is but a pale reflection of a hidden supernal existence? So if you're only spiritual, you say, well, the world's beautiful. You know, the spiritual world is more beautiful. God is more beautiful. But the goal isn't to leave this world and go to God. The goal is to stay here and bring God here. And that's what halacha, that's what the mitzvot are. Every one of these details imbues each of the fragments of existence, of physical existence, with holiness. The halachic man who gazed at the first rays of the sun and reflected upon the beauty of the world and the nothingness of man in an ecstatic mood of joy intermixed with tragedy is a this-worldly man, an individual going over to concrete reality, because mitzvot are only in concrete reality. It's very appropriate before Shvuot. Who communicates with his creator, not beyond the bond of finitude, not in a holy transcendent realm enwrapped in mystery, but rather in the very midst of the world and the fullness thereof. And in the book of Yeshayahu, we see that Cheskia, the great king, the righteous king, who was very sick, called out to God to heal him. I said, I shall not see the Lord, even the Lord in the land of the living. For the netherworld cannot praise you, death cannot celebrate you. They that go down into the pit cannot hope for your truth. The living shall praise you, as I do this day. The father to the children shall make known your truth, saying Chizkiyahu when he recovered from his illness. Lo amat ve'echial, shall not die but live and declare the words of the Lord, pleaded David, king of Israel, before his creator. And the echo of these hymns still resounds through the world of halacha, that our deepest goal is life itself. Because life is the only place, this world, where one can engage in halacha. And here's a fascinating comment in the notes on page 149, home 41. How different is this view from that of Plato regarding bodily existence, as it comes to fore in his dialogue Phaedo, and indeed from the general Greek attitude regarding the conjoining of body and soul, an attitude that results in the negation of the body, whereas the Jewish spirituality celebrates the body because that's the means by which we engage in Halacha, we engage in the path of fulfilling the mitzvah. The ideal of a halachic man is the redemption of the world, not via a higher world, not by leaving here and blasting off to a higher world, but via the world itself, via the adaptation of empirical reality and the ideal patterns of halacha. If a Jew lives in accordance with halacha, and life in accordance with halacha means first, as we discussed, the importance of study, the comprehension of the halacha per se, and second, comparing the ideal halacha with the real world, and as we said before, doing what we can, which isn't always everything, the act of realization of halacha, then he shall find redemption. A lowly world is elevated through the halacha to the level of a divine world. And he's going to bring some really interesting examples. But before we do that, I want to pause for any questions, comments, and so on, because we've been talking for a while. And if I or Natalie or Bobby want to say something, go ahead, please. Anyone? Okay, we'll continue then. Just one moment, please.
Rabbi, on page 37.
Yeah, go ahead, listening.
On the top of the page where he mentioned the book of Job. And then there is the fear of death is transformed here into a quiet anguish, a silent pain, and a tender and delicate sadness that are adorned with the precious embellishment of a profound and lofty aesthetic experience. I know what is aesthetic in the philosophy,
aesthetic
but what does
beauty.
he means here?
A
lofty aesthetic experience.
Well, on page 36? 37.
Yeah.
Right. In other words, he has this great experience of the beauty of the world, right? But at the same time, he understands that beauty is fleeting and transient, and there's a lot to do about bringing, to bring halacha into it. In other words, you see how beautiful and how much potential the world has, but at the same time, how fleeting your time is. So that very beauty and potential gives a sense of angst, a sense of having to get things done, and how short the time is to get it done. Because even a very long life is a very short time.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's the concept that we're dealing with.
Thank you.
Okay, and we shall continue now. Okay. So I have to fix one thing. Give me a second, please. Okay. And almost there, people. Just to have a little bit of slowness. Okay, so let us continue. Here we are. So now we're continue on page 38. So here we're going to have an example of how halachic man, we don't want to leave this world and reach some spiritual realm. We want to elevate this world. If a Jew cognizes, which means understands, fancy way of saying understand. For example, the Shabbat laws and the precepts concerning the sanctity of the day and all their particulars. If he comprehends via a profound study understanding that penetrates the very depths, the basic principles of Torah law that take on form and color within the tractate Shabbat, then it will perceive the sunset of a Shabbat Eve, which is different in halacha from the sunset of any other day of the week, not only as a natural cosmic phenomenon, but as an unsurpassably awe-inspiring, sacred, and exalted vision, an eternal sanctity that is reflected in the setting of the sun. Because when the sun sets, the Shabbat comes in, and the universe transforms, because the way we relate to the universe on Shabbat is entirely different from the way we relate to it the whole week. Shabbat has a halachic superstructure imposed upon it, a halachic overlay, which is profoundly different from any other day of the week. I remember once on the Day of Atonement, I went outside into the synagogue courtyard with my father, Rabbi Moshe Soloveitchik, who was the first Soloveitchik to come to the United States, just before the Ne'ilah service. The Ne'ilah is the last service on Yom Kippur, on the Day of Atonement. It had been a fresh, clear day, one of the fine, almost delicate days of summer's end, filled with sunshine and light. Evening was fast approaching. An exquisite autumn sun was sinking in the west, beyond the trees of the cemetery into a sea of purple and gold. Reb Moses, a halachic man par excellence, turned to me and said, "This sunset differs from all ordinary sunsets, for with it forgiveness is bestowed upon us for our sins, because the end of the day of Yom Kippur, halachically, it is the completion of the Yom Kippur in a state of fasting that gives us the atonement. So it is this sunset that creates atonement. It's entirely different from all the sunsets of the year, because there is this overlay of the divine experience of atonement integrated into the very physicality of the sunset. This is the halachic man. The Day of the Atonement and the forgiveness of sins merged and blended here with the splendor and beauty of the world and with the hidden lawfulness of the order of creation. And the whole was transformed into one united nature and God, physical and spiritual, holy cosmic phenomenon. And this is the power of the halachic life. Even in the next world, the entire focus of a soul who lived in this world is on the halachas lived in this world. When the righteous sit in the world to come, as Maimonides says, where there is neither eating nor drinking, with their crowns on their heads, and enjoy the radiance of the divine presence, they occupy themselves with the study of the Torah, which treats of bodily life in our lower world. As discussed in the Talmud, they were disputing in the heavenly academy thus: if the bright spot of the leper seated the right hair, he is defiled. The reverse, he is clean. If the order is in doubt, the Holy One, blessed be he, ruled he is clean, while the entire heavenly academy rules he is defiled. When Moses ascended on high, he found the Holy One, blessed be he, studying the law of the red heifer, and saying, my son Eliezer said, a heifer is next to be broken, must not be less than a year old, more than a year old, and a red cow neither more or less. The creator of the worlds, God, revealed and unrevealed, the heavenly host, the soul of the righteous, all grapple with halachic problems that are bound up with the empirical world. The red cow, the heifer whose neck is to be broken, leprosy, and similar issues. If you wonder why we want to break the neck of an heifer, there's a special rule that if you find a dead body of someone murdered in the land of Israel during the time of the temple, and we don't know who murdered him, we have to bring atonement, because maybe had we fed him and escorted him properly, or her, they wouldn't have died. So we bring a heifer, a young cow, and we break its neck and bury it in that place to say that let this sacrifice that you can't eat because its neck is broken, can't be used, be an atonement for this person who didn't get to live out their life properly because we perhaps did not feed them, clothe them. Why were they wandering in the street in a dangerous time? Maybe because they hadn't been offered lodging or an escort or food or drink. This is our sin as a community. And this very evocative and powerful and shocking killing of this young cow in a way that it can't be used and can't be consumed and so on, and its burial indicate, this shocking loss of a human being because maybe we as a society failed to provide them with the necessary safety net. This is the idea of the breaking of the neck. I just thought it'd be worth talking about because it's called the Eglah Rufa. Very few people are familiar with this idea. The creator of the worlds, revealed and unrevealed, the heavenly hosts, the soul of the righteous, all grapple with the halachic problems that are bound up with the empirical world. The red cow, the half whose neck is to be broken, leprosy, and similar issues. They do not concern themselves with transcendence, with questions that are above space and time, with the problem of earthly life in all its details and particulars. Why? Because God knows about God. The souls know about the spiritual world. What is unique is bringing God's will, bringing the spiritual down into the physical. That's special. And that's, the souls yearn before they come into this world to be here and do that. And when they when they go to the next world, they spend the time studying about what is to be done in this world. And this is what the sages said. The day consists of 12 hours. It's metaphorical. But during the first 3 hours, the Holy and Blessed Peace sits and occupies himself with the Torah. And what Torah is this? The Torah that was given to us. The Torah dealing with the physical world. It deals with civil law, forbidden foods, forbidden sexual relations, marriage, divorce, chametz, leaven, and matzah, the shofar, the lulav, the sukkah, and all of the similar commandments. The universal homo religiosus proclaims the lower yearns for the higher. But a Halachic man with his unique mode of understandingly cares, the higher longs and pines for the lower. So if anyone has any further comments or questions, we will take them. And we have to conclude the class early today because it's the eve of Shavuot, and we have still many things to cook and bake because we're having our first portable luncheon in a bag, our first kiddush in a very long time, and there is much practical to do to prepare for the Yom Tov, because on Shavuot in particular, there is a halachic obligation to enjoy it with good food and good company. Okay, any questions or comments before we go? We're up to chapter 8, we're on page 39. Anyone want to say something? Otherwise, I wish you all a wonderful Yom Tov. Hi, good to see you. Bobby, good to see you. And Natalie, great to see you back. You're looking well.
Thank you very much. Have you all.
Sameach, everyone, and those who
Chag
meet me,
Sameach.
and those who join us on Zoom, we'll see you. Well, we have Yizkor today, and one of the Shavuot classes, as the email will say. But otherwise, we'll be back on Zoom on Thursday. Wednesday, no Zooms except for the morning service. All the best, everyone. Take care.
Thank
Chag
you.
Sameach.